Hi, friends. Good day. Good day, friends. My name is host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. And I need your wisdoms. Why? So that I can read them aloud on my YouTube channel. It's pretty important. If somebody doesn't step up and provide me some wisdoms, I could be accused of a meaningless title. Hello, MC McPhee. Hello, Lauren McGinley. I'm pretty sure you're not going to really be able to help because I know that Scotland only has 3 pieces of wise advice, I think, total. I've heard them all already. One of them is stay out of the bog. One of them is those damn Irish, I think. And then some sort of mumbled Gaelic thing that I don't remember what it means. Anyway, you do have wisdoms. Oh, well, I am here to hear your wisdoms today. I need your wisdoms.
I'd like to hear the wisdoms too.
The axioms of your life. The aphorisms that are true for you. What's important that I need to know about the world and the universe that you can share with me via the speakings of your wisdoms? Don't eat the yellow snow. Good advice. Advice I've already heard before.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to eat the yellow snow, but still, it doesn't hurt to reinforce it. Honesty is the best policy. Very true. And that is a very good wisdom to go by, I think. That's very close to axiomatic for me, too. It's like, some of these axioms or aphorisms, you might call them, function like axioms for a person. In other words, they actually live by that. I love that. That's fantastic. Zandy says, she read this someplace, I guess. You know it's cold outside when you go outside and it's cold.
Can you do me a solid, Oster?
A solid? Sure. I also do you a liquid, gas, or plasma.
That's great. Wow, you're so versatile.
I'll do any of your states that matter.
Thank you. Could you toss me my bottle of pills, the Fluxotane, whatever?
Sure.
This would be it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Why am I standing today?
She actually likes standing.
I like standing in general, and I kind of like the way this looks. And it gives me just more room to move around. I can pace and stuff,
You kind of get a better sense of, like, the room, too. Like, you can see the high ceilings and stuff.
Let's look out on stage.
Wow.
And I say to you today, are we those people who will fall before our enemies when those enemies are within ourselves? I say thee no. Makes me feel more like I'm, what's it called? Declaiming. I feel like I'm declaiming. If you like standing, stand. That is great new wisdom, MC McPhee. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for rendering what's in front of you, that extroverted sensing data, into something that becomes metaphysical. Namely, extroverted intuition / introverted intuition. In this case, introverted intuition. Good advice. So I hope somebody's taking notes here of all the good advice we hear today. Let's I'm gonna maybe open up a Miggity with a possible option to, at some point thereafter, execute a These are becoming highly addictive. These, yes, they're highly addictive. I will concede that. These are highly addictive. Well, you'll find me hard pressed to catch me saying I'm addicted to marijuana. I don't even claim that I was ever addicted to alcohol. And I was definitely a full-blown alcoholic. I am addicted to cigarettes. I don't know what it is about them. They got some sort of sneaky little hold on you, though, and you never stop wanting them. I quit one time for 10 years before I started smoking again. But I know you're talking about these streams. But anyway, thank you, Katie. That's nice to hear. Thank you. Something I forgot about a fool and his money, but I forgot I don't have any money. Okay, whoever smelt it dealt it is a wise rule of thumb. I would call that a heuristic. So we could basically broadly say you've got two kinds of aphorisms. You've got your heuristics and we've got your axioms. An axiom is like honesty is the best policy, or silence is golden. A heuristic is more of a useful one. Who did the rhyme did the crime is an interesting take on whoever smelt it dealt it, but it is a good heuristic for accountability. It's like an accountability heuristic, to help you hold the right people accountable. Eric, did you ever go? No, I haven't done that yet. I should. I know. I should. You know what? Maybe why don't we plan to go over it together on a stream? You can talk me through it, and I can ask you some questions about it later today. Okay? Soon, not that long from now. If you're down. Right now, I'm doing stand-up stream.
I like that.
So
you really do get a sense of like how tall the ceilings are in here.
Of course, you really get a sense of how tall I am. You need some sort of a thing to compare against. Like, for example, if you were to put a high chair right here, and we're actually like this tall, then I was really short. Mm-hmm. And the ceilings were quite low. So the one thing I noticed here, of course, as I'm doing my standing stream, is I started incurring the problems that are unique to standing stream. Because standing stream's not supposed to be it's not supposed to be a standing stream per se, right? It's supposed to be a liberating kind of thing where I can move around. Good. But what do I find myself doing? I'm stuck here in this one spot. Why? Because I got all this little shit around my feet, and I'm just like, I gotta move some stuff. I've got this lamp. I went to the lampshade store and I said, give me the best lampshade you got for this lamp. And, it wasn't what I would call a well-stocked lampshade store.
We take care of our lampshades here. Fucking metaphysical objects.
Just do it. Shia LaBeouf voice? What does Shia LaBeouf's voice sound like?
I believe it was like, just do it! Like,
I don't know that voice. So I can't picture it. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf.
Why is his name Shia LaBeouf?
That's a good question.
Is that kind of weird fur in it?
We could throw that out.
Okay.
It says to my mom.
It's the cat.
Oh, shiz.
It's addressed to cat, but it's got our return address. It's got a stamp on it, but you never mailed it.
Yeah, because it doesn't have a, It does have a stamp on it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I wanted to
ripped it open. You wanted to do something else and put it in there probably. And take it back out.
Uh-huh.
Let's see here.
And I think I might need another stamp if I put something in there too, because of the weight.
Okay, that's possible. So I want to read aloud a wisdom. We have a new wisdom to consider. So far, we've considered a few wisdoms by a few people who offered us wisdoms to consider. And here's one I want to read aloud so that we can consider it. It says, Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh, and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show. Keep on laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. I would call that a non-actionable piece of wisdom. It's non-advisory. So we talked already about there being two kinds of wisdoms so far we've identified. There may be more, but we've identified axiomatic wisdoms and heuristic wisdoms. That would seem simply a non-actionable observation. Just do it, Nike. Shia McGinley, 2020. Here's a piece of wisdom for you. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. Philosophy is wondering if that means ketchup is a smoothie. That's excellent. Very excellent.
That's excellent.
So I think that
That's philosophy in there too.
we can identify one form of wisdom as clarification. Clarification wisdoms. There's axiomatic wisdoms like honesty is the best policy. There's heuristic wisdoms like he who smelt it dealt it. There's also what you might call like aspirational wisdoms, like sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
True.
It's not exactly anything like an observational truth. It's sort of establishing that I want to control the narrative. The narratives don't have any power. But of course, as such, it's a self-defeating argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really work very well.
Big brains. Ooh, we're getting some room movement.
Now we're really exploring some options here today. One of the options that we're exploring, of course, is the option to explore options. Isn't that fun?
Your SFJ voice is just so spot on. It's one of my faves.
Thanks, Dylan.
You're welcome. Laura went for a shower. Who said that was okay? You know, you pay for this course. This standing.
Yeah, keep in mind, I will mark her absent, and she's going to have to take a makeup class, and she's going to have to pay for the extra makeup class. So just make her aware of that. Otherwise, I'm failing her and still not refunding her money and still making her attend the rest of the class. And it's not even for credit. So my failing her doesn't even mean anything. It's like that. Okay? It's just, this class is about, how to manage your time so that you feel satisfied. That's why I'm doing this to her. Because I want to make sure she's satisfied with my level of commitment to this class. It's like, I'm also the teacher of the class, College 101, study of universities and colleges and how the role they play in making curricula for colleges. College 101, if you've never taken it. It's mostly all about how it's important that we have classes about why we have classes and how important it is to get your diploma. It's also a class that talks about how going to college can be a lot of fun. And that if you come from a rich family, it's probably a pretty not such a terrible 4-year vacation. But for those of you who are here
4-year vacation
with student debt, really, really bad decision. So I'm going to just try to make sure your time here is as pleasant as possible. You're paying for 4 years of a random assortment of interesting information to complete blathering nonsense. So hopefully you find that you get your money's worth. It's like, I mean, I could be up here right now. It could you already paid the tuition, right? You didn't know what you were going to get when you bought this class. You very well could end up in some situation next quarter where the person is up here telling you that that you have an obligation to use the pronoun Johar because of some strange ontological argument, right? So you're going to get some of that. You're going to get some of this complicated science stuff that doesn't really care about it all, like chemistry and stuff. Maybe you might have to take chemistry. Probably not. You probably take astrology for non-science people. If you are a science person, why are you in this class? This is college 101, okay? You have no business being in this class. Eric, wisdom of the day is this. If you get married, don't get your wife a fake diamond. Is that why? I would think the wisdom would be the opposite. Every time you feel yourself getting pulled into other people's nonsense, repeat these words. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Good advice. That's what you call a heuristic kind of wisdom. So we've identified some different kinds, right? We've identified the observation, life is shit. What you might call a metaphorical observation wisdom. We've identified the axiomatic kind of wisdom. Honesty is the best policy. You could also call it axiomatic kind, the golden rule, the platinum rule, whatever. Then you've got your heuristic kind, which is a little different. It's like he who smelt it dealt it. You don't expect it to be axiomatic. You know that it is, in fact, the case that there's been occasions in which you have smelled a fart, but were not, in fact, the dealer of that fart. So, of course, what's really meant by the expression "he who smelt it dealt it"? It's he who reports the body killed the body. Is what it really means. So it's a comment about communication, not about the dealing of farts, nor the smelling of them. Netflix's. I've never really made Netflix possessive before, I guess. It's an odd sounding word. Okay, I'll join you in a minute or two. Okay. ENTP says, if you take out a loan, you pay it back for 30 years. If you rob a bank and hide the money, you get 15 years. You do the math. Of course, the humor in there is because of the little rhetorical sleight of hand that occurs. Because the 30 years, the unit 30 years, in the first case, refers to the length of the contract. And in the second case, 15 years refers to the length of your incarceration. So that's fun. I like fun rhetorical sleights of hand. I was on a Brad Pitt trip because he appeared in my dreams. He hasn't appeared in my dreams yet. He's scared. He's a little scared.
I think he is afraid. I would be afraid if I were him.
I'm going to be so nice. I'm going to be a little bit starstruck. He's like, he doesn't have anything to worry about. It's fine. He can go in my dreams.
Okay, cool.
He's welcome to show up.
I'm going to ask him. I'm going to try. I'm legit going to try to use my metaphysical powers and have him appear in your dreams.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll probably just, we'll go, since the dream will probably go do something weird like, climb up into a tree or something, but we'll chat. We'll discuss the issues of the day. I'll make sure he feels comfortable that I'm not there to judge him, because he's going to feel insecure because he's not sure if he can really articulate his positions very well or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not there to bust your chops, dude. I almost feel like I have to poop again. This standing up may be a factor in the timing and processes of my poopage. that I really hadn't considered before. Maybe if I'd been standing up when live streaming in past instances, I would have had to poop sooner than if I was sitting down. Or maybe it's not a factor. That could be the case as well. It could just be I would be having to poop right now, whether I was sitting down or standing up. So it's difficult to. I need more data. I need a lot more data. I have to really be careful recording that data as well, which will never happen in a million billion lifetimes. So we just have to speculate. We just have to be satisfied with speculation. The other thing that I could do here is with this space is I could give you something to look at while I go poo. I could put something here for you to look at, and you could look at it. People like looking at things. It's one of the major senses that we have, our vision. Here. What am I going to put there? And how am I going to put it there?
What about the wisdom? You better not pout. You better not cry. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
It's interesting wisdom. I would say that it really does a lot of a sort of implicit framework while pretending not to. It's a little bit of a shady bit of wisdom there, because what it's really saying is forsake your own life instincts in favor of this reward that you're going to earn.
Yeah.
It's very utilitarian in its framework.
Thank you.
I don't know if Santa meant to be utilitarian like that or not, but his intentions are really irrelevant at this point. He's caused so much damage now that I don't know how we're ever going to save Christmas. We're going to have to not just find a replacement for Santa Claus. He's gotten Rudolph hooked on OxyContin, I
heard about that. Is that what makes his nose glow?
Well, it's not. That ain't natural, sweetie. That ain't natural. There. Now you have something to look at while I poop. Isn't that nice? Here.
Yeah. What can we do? How do we frame her?
Well, let me get you some friends.
Oh, he's back.
What's this guy's name again?
I forget.
He calls himself.
I just think of him as an ISTP.
He calls himself like. The Cobra or something like that. I forget.
He's
got a tough name, but his name's really Alan, I think. I think his name's Alan. He doesn't stand very well, though. Alan's not a very strong stander. He's more of a. He's really into relaxing. Oh, yeah. Another long day of being a badass. Oh, my God. Duck Girl. It's so good to see you. I have not seen you since Hawaii. All right, I'm going to poop, then I'll go to the Discord, okay?
So she like totally just got out of the water, you know, crazy swimmer. I am like the best swimmer in my class, and my hair shows it. This is, I forget her name, but she is an important character. Hi. Alan? Why are you so weird? It's because I'm so awesome. Look, I can sit like this. How many people can say that? Yeah. Alan, you're such a show. Alan, you're such a show off. Ugh. I am just a quaint little chicken girl. I forget my name. Alan. Jesus Christ. We're doing a split for the chicks, yeah. I don't think girls like splits. Doesn't it hurt your balls? Oh no! That was instant karma. Yeah, that was like totally instant karma. I mean, really, we're all about peace and happiness here because we're all about diversity. That's why I am the best swimmer on my swimming team. Oh shit, he's back.
What happened?
Alan tried to take over the show because, you know, he went up to the camera and he's like, look how cool I can sit. I can sit like this. And then I forgot her name, but she got really pissed because she's like, Alan, you're stealing the show. And she's like, look how cool I look because I just came out of the water and she's the best swimmer on her swimming team.
Well, I think her explanation was she doesn't have a name because she's a mermaid.
Oh.
And all mermaids, they just call each other mermaid.
Mermaids.
Hey, mermaid, what's going on?
Yes.
It makes it difficult when they're at a party or something because, of course, all their heads turn when somebody says, hey, mermaid, you know. But
yeah.
Applause for Rachel.
Thank you.
I'm sure she did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Tapping into her any. You know, she's pretty practiced at riffing with humor stuff, and we do it in the car sometimes. It's taken me a surprisingly long time to sort of trust her as a riffing partner. I'm not. It's not because of anything on her end. It's just I'd gone such a long time without working with anybody in that capacity. You know, the last person I really ever did that with successfully was Corey, who was also an INFJ. So it's interesting because it's an anything. I mean, I used to do. No, I mean, I guess around the channel I did that periodically with a few times anyway with what's his name? That ENFP guy who looks like Beardy Joe and who lives in France on his like parents' farm and makes his own beer and what's his name?
Matthew Alistair?
No.
He's a famous?
Yeah, but he's from back a bit. You I don't know if your time periods cross
Not
paths.
like Lifestyles of the Living Famous.
No, I'm talking about what is that guy's name? I can't believe I can't remember it. He might have been Scottish as well.
Oh.
No, he was Scottish because I remember he talked about wearing a kilt in France and he talked in general about how aggressive the French girls were sexually, and also how kind of like not how much assumption of there being an inclusion of sexuality in France. So it's like, for example, talk about getting on the bus and like it was a hot day and a French girl in like a string tank top or whatever, and she got on the bus and just like sauntered right over and like sat right next to him, pushed up against him, and like because it was kind of a crowded bus, and just the casualness with which there's all this touching and stuff, and it made him feel uncomfortable. But that's why I remember he's from Scotland, because he mentioned how even in various places, if you wear a kilt, actually wear a kilt, that you're subject to sexual harassment. I mean, he probably is, because he's got this sort of like Fabio crossed with somebody with a beard who's considered like manly. I can't think of an example.
Like a Scottish.
Who's an example like a beardy guy who's considered manly, and then cross that with a long haired Fabio Euro thing.
I'm not good at that.
Beardy guy who's considered manly? I'm drawing a blank too. I'm totally drawing a blank. It's like,
I don't
guess
think they've been able to find one yet. Because if they would have put him in movies.
Well, okay. It's kind of like, I guess, number 2 on Star Trek Next Generation. Who was that guy? I don't know what he was also called.
Paul Bunyan. Oh yeah, you know, like a cross between the brawny, towel guy. He always has a.
That's what I was looking for.
And Fabio.
Yeah,
that's a handsome dude.
Sauce. Whatever. His name is Sauce.
Wow, his name is Sauce. The Scottish man.
The stream's cutting out? Well, that's not good. It's like me at your mom's house last night after I was done. Cut out, man. I was like, I'm out of here. This bitch is nuts. Let me tell you. I can tell you a thing or two about David Sanderson's mom. Let me say, woo! She's a real firecracker.
When we stand up, like we have so many more options of like positions to be in.
Yeah, we do.
Let me help you out here.
Just push this back here a little bit. The thing is, of course, now if I want to sit down, I can't sit down because there's no place to sit.
Oh shit!
But that's okay because I can remedy that either by getting a chair, by pulling your hair, by killing a bear, or by buying some Nair. Any of those will attain the solution we're looking for. He will present a lot of information. Who will? Information overload. Cloud, are you a man who will fight for my honor? Are you the hero that I'm dreaming of? Yeah, etc.
Shit, I gotta figure out what to do here. We got it. We got this. We got this.
I've got good news, everybody. They got this.
Alrighty, there we go.
If you were concerned maybe they weren't going to be able to handle this by themselves, you were wrong. Would you like me to move that vacuum someplace else?
Maybe.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. I think we should probably keep the vacuum inside the house.
Yeah, we use it.
Or just because it's like, since we use it in different places, then we're going to have to move it occasionally anyway. Might as well move it from inside out here where there's less place to store stuff.
Son of a bitch. I didn't want you to do that. I'll play with the other. Oh, Claire's not in here.
Where should we put?
How do I mute this though?
Alright.
No, together.
Yeah, defending against the fries liver, it's not easy, buddy. And I think I got my queen like in a really awkward fucking position here. I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
There. I turned him down. That's what I did. No, not for a date. I'm talking about his volume. It's funny though. It's a funny misconception. Now he won't be so loud. Okay, there. So I'm still looking for wisdoms. I would like to read everyone's wisdoms aloud to share them with the people of the world. We've had a number of good wisdoms so far. We've had the wisdom that says, honesty is the best policy.
Goddamn.
What happened?
I almost.
Almost, but didn't.
Yeah. But didn't.
All right.
It's my day.
For those of you who were complaining about the stench, Lauren finally relented. She's back. She's taking a shower. We shouldn't have to smell her any longer. I'll take that for you, sweetie.
Thank you.
I heard once, Zandy quotes this, never assume because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Oh.
That's a famous one. But I much prefer my version of it, which is, you know what they say, if you assume, you make an ass out of you. See why mine's better? I like mine better because it takes advantage of the person's, what they expect to happen, to be revelatory about what I actually think. A fool thinks he's wise. A wise man knows he's a fool.
I'm a fool.
Here's the problem. If a wise man knows he's a fool, then he must also think he's wise.
Yeah.
In which case, he knows he's a fool, but knowing a fool means knowing he thinks he's wise, which makes him a wise man.
Is this cash or no?
Only insofar as he knows he's a... That doesn't tell us anything. That just goes around and around and around. I'm holding a trash bag. That's my job. Rachel's cleaning. I'm holding the trash bag. Somebody's got to hold it.
we only have like nothing.
I'm distorting it. I'm not distorting it.
No, this is the real like.
A fool thinks he is wise, but a wise man knows he's a fool. I know who I am. I'm the guy who thinks himself wise, namely a fool.
Fool me, go on and fool.
Uh-oh, I got hushed. Ray Fox hushed me.
Uh-oh.
Hush yourself.
He does not like to be hushed.
I don't mind being hushed that badly.
Oh, okay.
Especially if you use a gentle term like hush-a-bush.
Hush.
Oh, hush-a-bush.
Oh, hush-a-bush.
That's the gentlest way of telling somebody to shut up. A trash bag holds trash. But that doesn't mean that anything that holds a trash bag is a trash bag, even though it is holding trash. So we can really learn a lot about logic from that piece of wisdom there from Running Fox. Wisdom. Cannibals got wrong. Treat thy neighbor to thyself.
CJ O'Connell, we have that song on Snappy Tracks, Love Fool. We like that song.
Whereas they should have gone to say, treat yourself to your neighbor. Treat yourself. Cannibalism, take me away. After a long day of
What a coffin. Excuse me.
You bought a coffin?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I guess it's in the background somewhere. I mean,
You need to turn it off or something.
I don't think he's responding to me.
Right.
It sounds like he's responding to me. Huh? It's just coincidence.
That
Huh?
was.
Okay. Nautilus is in the chat too, but he hasn't said anything. He's in the voice channel.
Who's in the voice channel? Am I in the voice channel?
Yeah. I am and he is.
All right,
And
cool.
you are too.
And I am too. That makes 3, which means we're ready to start a party. It takes 3 people to have a party. 2 people's not a party, it's a date, or it's a friendly outing.
And Nautilus is like the, third person. Is like the, I don't know what he is, actually.
I'm assuming based on his name, he's a ship. Sounds like the name of a ship.
I knew a band
The Nautilus?
that called themselves Nautilus.
I'm a ghost,
Weird.
don't mind me, lol.
Could be a band as well. Yes, my dear.
Tell me a joint, please. I think I'd like one.
Sure.
Thanks.
Let
We're
me
done with the.
put the trash bag down there.
Yeah.
Well,
So what kind of work?
great language.
Good idea.
I have to take the trash out. We have no more room in our trash bag. Okay, there. Now I'm taking the trash out. So for everybody here, either in the live stream chat or if people are in the Discord server, I'm here to discuss whatever about any topic or whatever. But in the interim, if anybody has any wisdoms, I'm reading your wisdoms aloud so that all the world can benefit from your wise words. Let's see. This is one of the problems with standing up is I don't have any place to use this.
Oh,
But I do. I can put it right here.
I have a wisdom that is pretty popular. An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
And it is popular. It really seems to oversell the curative powers of apples or preventative powers of apples. It's like one of those things that's difficult to disprove, right? Like if in fact you eat an apple a day and you ever go to the doctor, does that mean therefore the apple is useless? If you don't go if you miss a day of apple eating and you still don't go to the doctor, does that mean the apple had nothing to do with your avoiding the doctor? It's hard to say. It would take a lot of data gathering. Snappy tracks, I would recommend changing your perspective over to Chappy Tracks of my playlist songs, which is like Snappy Tracks, but sort of an updated Snappy Tracks. John Leguizamo. That's not a piece of wisdom. That's somebody's name. Let's see what other wisdoms we have here. Were you about to say a wisdom, Rachel, when I interrupted you?
No, but I am thinking about them. It is on my mind.
A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is if you've gotten an accomplishment done, but there's an opportunity to get greedy and try to get meow, meow, meow here, but it's going to cost you a chance of losing the thing you've already gotten done, and it's probably a bad idea because you could end up with no birds at all.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm glad to finally understand that.
Now, here's another one that I bet you don't have any difficulty understanding, because bird in the hand is worth two in the bush is a TE heuristic, really. But the other one, this one's not a TE heuristic. This is an FE heuristic. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
I've never heard that before.
You haven't?
No.
Never heard don't look a gift horse in the mouth? It means if you received a horse as a gift in the olden days back before cars, it was a nice gift, even if it wasn't a very good horse. If you were going to go buy a horse, you definitely want to look at its mouth, because if it has tooth problems and stuff, then that's a bad horse to buy. And so if they don't look a gift horse in the mouth, don't evaluate the quality of something you get for free because it's a gift and that's rude to the person who's giving it to you. You can always look at the horse later after the person's gone and, if necessary, euthanize it.
Oh my God. Honestly, it's so funny that you say that, because this morning while I was peeing, I was looking at the bag of cat food for Kitty, knowing that she likes white fish, not chicken. And I'm like, we have this big bag that's a gift to us, but you can't say anything.
So my dad goes, sometimes gets us stuff from the store, and sometimes very useful stuff like bags of cat food and stuff. But he doesn't know that the cat only eats white fish or tuna variant cat food. She will eat the other ones, but she doesn't like them. And we don't like to make the cat eat anything she doesn't really like to eat.
Yeah, she does, because she does it begrudgingly. It's not fun.
She gives these dirty looks.
Yeah.
I
don't like those dirty looks.
This is wisdom too. I'm going to paraphrase what Brennan Fox here says. Whenever you have a nautical theme, the likelihood of Afghan-linked coziness increases dramatically. And you know what? Whenever you're talking about a cozy situation, the likelihood of referencing an Afghan more than quadruples.
Hello, PNP.
In non-coziness contexts, Afghan talk is limited to mostly discussions of what grandma did, you know. Let's see what other wisdoms we have here. Danish Special Forces, Afghanistan.
Oh, I have one.
Wait, so a special on Danish forces Afghanistan to do what? Gorge on delicious breakfast pastries? Wisdom doesn't come from above down. It comes from below up. So are my feet wiser than my head? Kind of a wisdom. Be as brave as Emperor Caligula. He tried to fight Poseidon by declaring war on the sea. Now, I should note, everybody, you might want to limit your imitation of Caligula to matters of bravery, okay? While Caligula did demonstrate excellent bravery, he, in a lot of ways, was a somewhat less than ideal hero.
Keep it out, Miss PNP.
Thank you, Jen Zennial. I'm going to start saying your name right. That's real respect, Jen Zennial, right there. I am pronouncing your name correctly. I spent years of people refusing to pronounce the name correctly. Take Sredni Vashtar that's Sredni Vashtar. What's her name again?
Shamalama.
No, Sredni. The girl from the channel is not going to come around anymore. Shruti Chandran.
Yeah.
Or Kankan Krishna Sarmapagu's friend. Shruti Chandran. Okay, so let's see another wisdom. Read some wisdoms. Go ahead, Rachel.
Keep meet new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold.
Ah, yes.
Can you explain explain that one? Because I've always had problems with that with some.
Okay, so it says, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, the other gold. It's a very SI framed axiom. It says, we ought to prefer that which you have more time invested to, necessarily. Okay, so will you listen to me talk, Eric? Sure. Come on to the thing and talk. Every Little Thing is Magic by the Police. Pretty good song, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Here's another piece of wisdom. Everyone go see Lawrence of Arabia. Wait, no, what? That's not what you said. Hey, KD. An apple a day keeps everyone away if you throw it hard enough. Good point. Even the most useful thing can be used in a harmful way. I do believe that human beings are really simplistic and everything is limited. Everything is limited. Well, whatever that means. I mean, it's funny because you start with the subject saying, all-inclusive subject is exclusive.
Okay, this could be an NI thing. I don't know unless my NE is really working. But how about this one? Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you is a good piece of advice because it might stop feeding you. It's another FE heuristic, I guess. It says when you are in an FE disadvantage, then you have to account for that. Yes? Hello?
I don't think so. Wait, which blue one? I'm confused.
It's like a light blue. Like that. Or,
Involuntary erections are nature's way of saying, get with the program. That's good advice. That's what you call an observational wisdom. So we've identified different kinds of wisdoms, right? We've gotten our observational wisdoms, our axiomatic wisdoms, our heuristics, and I would consider that sort of a heuristic wisdom, I guess. Kind of a SE heuristic, you might say. Does everything...
SE heuristic?
SE heuristic, yeah. The SE heuristic is involuntary erections are nature's way of saying get with the program. It's an NE or NI way of expressing an SE heuristic, which is, listen, if you're getting a boner, fuck. You know, why are you thinking about it, right?
Right.
Does everything have sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, I just sent you the servers in case you wanted to join in.
There's
a little bit of work that you need to do to verify. So,
are you talking to me? You're not talking to me, huh?
No, I was talking to you.
What do I have to do then? I thought I'm already here. I'm talking to you right now.
Right, this server. I meant the other servers I sent. But there's a process of verification, but we don't have to do that right like now. But you know, it takes some work. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay, yeah, fine. I mean, like I explained to you, I don't want you. Got to remember the sort of interactions that are meaningful to me. It's like if I'm just going someplace where there's a bunch of back and forth and there's not anything that's going to be, there's not any media object that comes out of it, then there's no point for me to do it. So it has to be context in which I can record it or live stream it or one of those two things.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well.
So let's see the other wisdoms of the people here as as you think about that for a second. The customer is always right. This person says,
Good one.
Jaxiel says it's BS. Well, it's, again, I would say a heuristic, a TE heuristic, really, not an FE heuristic. The TE heuristic says make the customer feel like they get the FE win all the time, which is probably a good TE rule of thumb. The smarter you are, the lesser is your perception of your intelligence. So, well, I mean, the thing about that notion is
to your actual intelligence, but not relative to other people. It's like people get the Dunning-Kruger wrong all the time. They don't really understand how it works.
So I get what you're saying about the relative to versus relative to, but can you say that again and explain it?
Me? Yeah. So basically, like really smart people don't perceive themselves as being as intelligent as they actually are, but they still perceive themselves as intelligent. compared to the average.
I mean, the thing is, the idea that as intelligence increases, humility also increases. There is only true to some extent, and that's really the engine of that, right? Like, I'm smart enough to recognize that I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and increasingly, as I find utility in the smartness of others, I find myself humbled by that which I still do not know, etc. However, it is not the case that the more intelligent you are, the less capable you are of objective self-analysis. And so once one puts behind one the insecurities that naturally are going to make smart people think less highly of themselves than the objective comparisons might suggest, there's still probably a particularist frame of reference that causes even the smartest people to fundamentally not view themselves as distinct as they are. But it's definitely not the case that increased intelligence precludes objective self-analysis, which is what's implied by that ridiculous, I guess, heuristic. Actually, I'm not sure. I guess that'd be heuristic.
Right. It's a good way of putting it.
Okay, let's see here. I am a human being and I will die one day. I can't change the world, eliminate world hunger, change rules, manifest my daydreaming into reality. I can't manifest these. Not with that loser attitude, you can't. Let's see. I can't. I mean, the thing is this. You got to remember, every time you are asking yourself, what kind of things, how much impact can I have in the world? You're already saying, I'm going to assume that the default frame of reference, which is you can't be significant in some way, and therefore you can't really have succeeded in your life in some way, without measuring your being in terms of impacts, you know? Look, my actual response to you, Razor M, is not, you're never going to get it. I understand what you're saying. There is, in fact, a kind of wrongness that says, I choose what happens to me. And, you know, for people who want to know, like, well, why don't I have that perfect boyfriend yet? Or why don't I have that man? Well, it's just your attitude. You know, you need to know, I am worth it. I'm going out there. He's the one I'm going to have. I'm just going to be positive and make it happen. That shit is obviously garbage. It's totally garbage. Because it's not framed correctly in the first place. You know, it says, we're going to take magical thinking and pretend that we can use it for actual decisions, bypassing the reality process entirely. And then what happens? They manifest themselves in a brand new car, but they don't get the brand new car, but something comes in the mail for them. And so then they make a video about how they successfully manifested this thing coming in the mail for them. I had a lot of energy out there. And they fail to mention that all that energy was directed toward manifesting a brand new car. And then when they get this other thing, they go, oh my God, that's the power of my manifesting energy. Even when there's a block or something that's preventing it from getting me a new car, it spills over and manifests other good things around me. Without any kind of concept of how they're doing, you know, they're both setting the ball on the tee, hitting it, pushing it along into the infield, feeling it themselves and throwing it badly to first base on purpose, and then celebrating getting a hit.
How about the early bird catches the worm?
Very edgy heuristic. Basically says, you don't have to have the best spot. You don't have to have the best approach to worm catching. You don't need to be selective so much about anything, except be the first one there, and there'll be plenty of worms. You can eat as many as you want, And the people who show up after you and you've eaten too many of the worms, that's their fucking problem. It's a super SE heuristic. Early birds getting worms. Even though you might think, well, SE DOMs aren't likely to want to get up early, but that's not the point. The frame of reference is nevertheless still an SE frame of reference. Just like talk is cheap is an FE frame of reference.
Right. So in the rules here, it says do not, where was it? Do not advertise or record without admin permission.
Okay, so I'm not going to go participate in that then. I mean, I'm certainly not going to say, hey, I'm here to engage with this community for a while, get comfortable with it, and then take advantage of that capital I built in that community. It's just a really not efficient at all. So let's see here. More wisdoms. It ain't over till it's over. Baseball wisdom.
That's
good,
baseball wisdom.
you know, and the reason it's good wisdom, even though it seems just like a tautology, right? It's just a tautology. It's not over until it is over. But even though it's a tautology, it's a worthwhile piece of advice because it admonishes you not to jump the gun about statuses. Make sure the actual physicalities have gone through all the way to their completion before assuming the statuses that appear to be likely to occur are going to be determinate. Because reality can sometimes fool you with a 7-run ninth inning for a comeback win that nobody expected.
Yep. Dodgers did that a couple times during the World Series.
Yeah, it was a good World Series. I enjoyed it.
We do.
Now, I want to also say this. I want to encourage everybody out there watching this stream to watch it in OBS and add a filter to your display capture, and then you can put whatever you want on the green screen. So this is a place I thought about this when I was inside taking a poo. I thought, hey, here's a good notion. Next time somebody complains about why should I even be in front of a green screen if I'm not going to use it as it's intended, my response is going to be because I'm changing the way people use green screens so that it empowers the viewer to put whatever they want on the green screen. That's going to be my narrative now. And that way people will go, oh, well, that makes sense. Then they won't be able to complain about it anymore. Life finds a way. Life finds a way to do what is the question, implicit in that piece of wisdom, right? So I would say that's what you call incomplete wisdom, because it doesn't say finding a way to do what, you know?
I have a, how about, shit. I'm good at this. This is like, because I feel, ooh, can we use the one from, I have to accept the changes, whatever, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The Serenity Prayer. Before we do the Serenity Prayer, and I will come back to it, and please remind me if I forget, I want to address this question or this issue of what Kshatriya Dharma says. If retrogrades, it does bad. So the interesting thing about the idea of something being a retrograde is astronomically, when a planet's in retrograde, it means whatever, you know, various things it means in terms of the physics of it, appearing to go backwards. But when we use, when we talk about things, grades, and the things that go in front of that word, we typically say upgrade or downgrade or degrade. So the other thing I remember about that word is the etymology of it, and that it links to the idea of flattening something, or the lack of flatness of something. I do appreciate any point of view on my thoughts. If they got proven wrong, I learned, so it's worth it for me. But what thoughts have you voiced that arguments are uncomfortable, but also promote growth to situations? I mean, they can. I think like everything in life, you kind of need to find the benefits of that which is not natively your way. So I'm most likely to fall victim of too much arguing, not too little. Sometimes you can't have what you want. Sometimes you can't have what you want. That's true.
Oh wait, were you still
Okay,
talking
Ghost
about
Maiden.
can't? Okay, so I had a therapist who once told me a
It's been a
wisdom,
while.
and her wisdom was from her mom, who said, "The world is made for twos." What do you think about that? What is that?
Well, I mean, that's the perspective. Probably, I say that's it emerges from an SI frame of reference, but it doesn't actually convey much of anything about it, any value that links to cognitive functions. So it seems to be more an expression of a SX enneagram instinctual variant. That statement is one that would definitely have been made up by somebody who's an SX instinctual variant, because they feel as though they aren't going through life correctly unless they're part of a two-person team. And I've also been with somebody who's not an SX variant. My ESFJ ex-wife, she was definitely SO or SPSO or SOSP, I don't know what, but was SX last. And it's a different kind of experience. It's like fundamentally, she expected my ex-wife for the two thing to be part of how she presents to the more than two. And it was important in that regard that it nailed down who she was as her process of engaging with the social. However, she was also self-preserving, which means when we weren't engaged in the social, she didn't really she didn't expect to hang out with me or anything, right? We never did anything together really, except when we weren't going out, and we didn't really want to spend time with each other because she wanted to watch her shows and I didn't like them, and she didn't like my shows, and so it's a totally different kind of relationship, right? It's a totally instrumental relationship where for both parties, she's thinking of the relationship as needing to fill its role that it fills in order to instrumentally serve her other absolute values, and not really being about the person at all. And that's the same attitude I've always had about relationships. And I think maybe it's even the same attitude Rachel has about them. But the difference is when you're with the actual right person, then if you are an SX type, you feel like, okay, I can now start living proper. I can now start going about my business as I'm supposed to, rather than driving. I've been riding around town this whole time with a motorcycle with a sidecar in it on the side of it. And it's like most of the time it's empty, or somebody comes and sits in it for a second, and I'm driving to the highway, they jump out in the middle of the thing. Blah, 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 blah. Why did I even get a motorcycle with a sidecar? Well, I was born with one of those. I was born with a motorcycle with a sidecar. So you don't really feel like you've got it, you're properly moving through traffic unless you've got somebody sitting in the sidecar.
Yeah.
And your partner feel the same way. Both people feel like they're the rider of the motorcycle, and the other person is the sidecar person, I'm sure. Just because everybody's the center of their own story,
So in the voice chat, I have a friend of mine from the original the Nameless Debate server that you debated Matt on.
Word.
Where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
She's an ISFP.
Hi.
It's been a few months before I've talked to her though. So.
Hi, David's friend, ISFP.
Hello.
Salty Peanut says, and do you remember me asking about that guy Mark, and you said he was a loose cannon, and I kind of like the loose cannons? I still keep thinking about that guy. He's got a very I'm here to poke kind of energy about him. And so, like, you know, or I am eyeing you as a woman energy about him. Yeah, we're talking about not host Mark. So that's going to be appealing to, especially fourth slot SE. You know, it's something that I do think is kind of implicit to, I think it's mostly correct, the idea of there being four kinds of romantic styles. One being, what is it, like victim aggressor or something they call it? And the other one being nurturer, like infant nurturer or something. But I think, like other aspects of personality, you probably have a stack up in that area. Like everyone has some flexibility, probably. Ideas are like farts. The bigger the fart, the more potential to move a crowd. I like that a lot.
I like that one too. I've never heard that one before.
Except here's the thing. I think it overstates the importance of size, because I personally don't like the notion that powerful ideas are big ideas, quote unquote. I think big ideas, I tend to associate it too much with like grand schemes for social reengineering or stuff. That may be unfair of me, but I prefer to think that, you know, good ideas or good insights, clear, powerful insights are those that reveal aspects of things in ways that make them communicatively understood how they previously had not been. So it's like there's certain things that are complicated and hard to explain. Cognitive functions being among them. At some point, though, across the board, I've gotten better at crossing the barrier from knowing nothing to knowing everything. It's a steep learning curve.
What about crack is whack?
Crack is whack. Now, I call that I think that's axiomatic. It's saying it's always the case that you shouldn't smoke crack. It's a bold claim, but you know what? As bold claims go, it's a fairly defensible one. MC McPhee says, CJ, I was wondering if you knew someone lived in the same state as you, would you go see them? Like if someone lived in England, that's not too far for me. It really depends on the size of the state, too, MC McPhee. So, state like, what was the smallest one? Rhode Island? I looked this up just the other night.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
I had said Delaware and you corrected me. Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island is the smallest state. And I bet you can't manage to continually drive at traffic speed for more than about 3 hours without leaving the state.
It's pretty much like that.
From any given point within the state. But in California, it may even be less than that. Maybe less than 3 hours, maybe 2 hours.
It's really, really quick. Like I remember, because we went to New Hampshire one year, and we drove through Rhode Island, and I remember my mom being like, "That's Providence. Say hi, Providence. We're in Rhode Island right now." She's like, "One day we'll stop here again. It's a really nice like area," and I think it was like probably like an hour. Really quick. It was really quick.
Zennial says Chicago to Detroit is 3 hours. So yeah, okay. I mean, the point is, here in California, Rachel and I will take a at least 2 hour long round trip to get weed and not leave the county. Not even come close to leaving the county.
Yeah.
to get out of the county as fast as I could would take me. Which direction would I go to get out as fast as I could? Because we're kind of in the middle. I have to go that way. Minimum of, with no traffic at all, 40 minutes to get out of the county. From where I am, basically in the middle, at the northernmost part of, but the middle, and you can't go over the mountains, so basically the middle. You could. I could go over the Angeles Crest, but that would be a slower way of getting out of the county.
It's a lot of space.
Mm-hmm. And then once you're out of LA County, Rachel and I, we went to visit Hambone in Washington, so we have recent experience of how long it takes to get out of California. It takes 9 hours to get to what's it called? Redding.
Mm-hmm.
9 hours to get to Redding, which is like the last big town in Northern California. And then it's a couple more hours beyond that, I think, to get out of the state.
Yep.
So you're talking about probably a good solid 12 hours to get out of the state going north from Los Angeles. That's not even the whole state. And I gotta say, the speed of traffic in California getting out of the state is substantially higher across, as a steady, you can maintain a steady 85. A lot of times I'm going a steady 85 and people are going by me at a steady 95 up I-5. And as soon as you get into Oregon, forget that noise. You are done with California driving. You are from that point forward stuck in Pacific Northwest land where people have not yet learned how to the gradual. They're still engaged in the gradual, slow transition from into the horseless carriage. They're learning. They're in trucks and they're looking over there and they don't know what they're doing. And you're like, don't you have someplace to go? Well, of course they don't. Why? Because they live in the Pacific Northwest. So all there is to do is just go around to the forest and stuff. And that's what they do. They go to the forest, but when they're not in the forest, they're on the roads. But they still think they're in the forest. That's the problem.
That is a problem.
Man, oh man.
Razor M
If
had
somebody accidentally puts the music bot on, it will, that would be bad.
Razor M had a good wisdom.
Let's hear it.
It's better to be approximately right than precisely wrong.
That's true.
Boy, I'm really conflicted about that one. I actually find myself very conflicted. I'd much rather be precisely wrong for the right reasons than approximately right for the wrong reasons. But that's your fundamental TETI thing. It's like, I'd rather be precise and wrong because at least then we know precision is possible than approximate and right, because that means I either haven't done necessary work to determine whether precision is possible or have determined it's not, and I'm not wasting a lot of time worrying about approximations. Just to play devil's advocate maybe here on this notion.
I like devil's advocate sometimes.
Sometimes.
It gets a little annoying, but when somebody's arguing a disingenuous point when it's clearly already been argued against.
Right. Well, yeah, that's annoying.
You're using the same argument.
As long as people are making new warrants, something's happening in the discourse. As long as they continue to say new warrants that they haven't made before.
Even if your argument doesn't disprove their warrant, they should rephrase it in a way that you can understand it, so that you can't use the same argument against it.
Right. Well, and that kind of value there, where you're saying we ought to be communicating so that we can establish whether something is done or not. Like there's a frame of reference that says we go into any kind of discursive event with open statuses, certain things that we may disagree on or we may not even have an opinion on yet, and that is the purpose of the discourse is to close those statuses and to possibly test existing statuses that might be considered closed but need to be reopened and then discarded instead. So, finding things that are reliable arguments, which is to say claims validated by warrants with impacts, that you can go back to again in the future in multiple contexts and know how to use that tool in various contexts such that the correctness of it is determinate. Yeah, I'm done with that sentence now.
It's very verbose, I guess. Not necessarily like pretentiously verbose, but like there's a lot of jargon there.
Well, what Bernie Fox says, communication should be used to find resolution. And typically when we hear something like that said, we think about it meaning people achieve resolution of their conflicts with each other. But the other meaning of it is open questions receive resolution, which is they are resolved one way or the other into a status. Instead of being something that's in dispute, it becomes something about which there's consensus one way or the other. At least there's consensus that we argued the point, and it's often if there are two reasonable people, there can be consensus about who won the debate. And if there's still not consensus about the position, then the presumption is there are more arguments that need to be discussed that weren't covered in that first debate, or that one party is choosing to hold a position for arbitrary reasons and no longer wants to debate the issue because they acknowledge that they can't win the debate. Let's see, other wisdoms. What if you are curious about both sides wanting perspective? Is that playing devil's advocate? No, I mean, to play devil's advocate is to basically it's just to say, okay, you've just voiced a perspective to me. Let me offer some arguments that people might make against your perspective in a way that hopefully convinces you to strengthen your own position before you voice it again, or maybe even change your position. Because what I'm basically saying, if I'm doing it, is what you're saying is dumb and it's totally indefensible. But I want to be nice instead of saying that. So I'm going to say, well, let's just for the sake of seeing how it plays out. I'm not saying I disagree with you at all, but in case you come across somebody who does disagree strongly, what if they were to say this to you? It's a much nicer way of approaching it than, but meow, 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 which is my normal, natural way of approaching it. Do you Americans do the nativity as a play in elementary school? No. Even when I was in elementary school, because there's a separation of church and state. That sort of thing became a hot button cultural fight issue in the 80s, maybe even a little before that, but mostly in the 80s when there was a swing back to the conservative understanding of things from the liberal understanding of things from the 70s. The 70s reflected one agenda. The 80s reflected another agenda. And we're currently in this topsy-turvy spot of you've got genuine agenda sides, and then you've got, I guess, profiteers, you might say. Like you can say, I consider Trump a profiteer off of the toxicity of agenda people and their behavior. The only reason Trump could ever win the election is because the agenda people became so toxic in their agenda politics that just anybody who rejected the political process at all, even if it were for the stupidest reasons imaginable, was considered a refreshing alternative to agenda nonsense. Of course, Trump managed to seem that even though he was powerfully agenda focused in his general vibe, but he you actually looked at what he was saying, it was always about him. It's not really agenda focused, it's Trump focused. TE videography wisdom. You frame your camera so the talent's eyes are level between the middle and the frame would be.
Which section are you viewing right now on this for now?
Let me actually show people kind of some of the challenges associated with these things. For people who don't themselves actually make YouTube videos, it's very easy to understand from a viewer's perspective how this could look better. And I am not disputing that at all. But it's very difficult from a viewer's perspective to get a sense of the trade-offs, which is to say, every amount of energy I put into the visual aesthetics is going to take time and energy, which is okay, and yet also sometimes presents me with like a kind of situation. So this is the kind of situation I'm talking about. Here's the thing that I have this sitting on, and it goes to right here. Okay, that's why I just pointed to, is as far this way as anything goes over there that I can put something on. Now I could move that table here and I could put the camera on that, but then the angle would be much lower. So I could, if I wanted this angle, but the right distance, I could get that table, put it here, find something, a height that goes from the height of that table up to where the camera is here, find that thing, put that there, put the camera on top of that, move the table here, and then have it framed out perfectly, right? Of course, I also have got the mic and the mic stand to account for, which currently has the short mic cable on it, leading to the sound card. Now, I could move the sound card closer as well, in which case I can move the mic, no problem. And I could put the sound card on that table. Now, that's great. Let's say I did all that stuff, and then I have it set up properly, so it's perfectly framed up. Now, of course, what I have to do at that point is come over here and open this door. Why? Well, because Rachel can't get through anymore. There's a cord and a table making it impossible for her to go from over here to over here, where she is constantly doing all day long. That's the trip she makes 50, 60, 70 times a day, from over there to over there. Now she has to go outside every time. Plus, the lighting is impacted because these things are open. So let's say, in fact, I did all that stuff. We got this door open, and I got it set up for the light just right with the curtains open. And then she goes out there, and then 30 minutes later, what the fuck happened with all the lighting? Well, of course, now the sun's changed, and having the curtains open makes the green screen all wonky. So I have to close those curtains. But now Rachel can't get through. And so every time she goes to the door, she has to open the curtains again and close the curtains again. And now I'm not saying that these things overall, on balance, make it such that you aren't right, that I ought not do all that stuff. But what I'm saying is, it's very easy for people to see what ought to be done, and for them to understand it as, it's not that difficult, Eric. I mean, God. Except here's the thing. Remember, it's not just doing that thing that I just described. It's then, when the live stream is over, and putting all that stuff back. Moving the couch back, sitting down again. And what ends up happening is, time after time after time, I'm expected to do the same thing. Repeat this process of setting up and stuff. But YouTubing for me is much more of an experiential process. It's like, most of the time when I want to start YouTubing or live streaming, it's because I've got something to say right now. I don't want to go through all this shit to set that stuff up. It's fine if I've got Adderall in me, my dopamine levels are high enough that says, just take your time, do it right, come on. But that doesn't come naturally to me. My natural thing to do is, the work itself needs to be done right now. And what is the work itself always? The words I have to say. You know, somebody's pissed me off and I have words to say and they need to be said right now. And these other factors like what the fuck the background looks like is totally irrelevant. Because after all, these words right here that I am saying should powerfully make clear to the wrong person the nature, scope, and danger of their wrongness. So for God's sakes, I do not have time to be moving things around and so forth. I start life doing right now. That's what happens to me constantly, you know? I don't want to do all that stuff. I'm mad at somebody or I just had an inspired idea. So I don't want to do all that stuff. Now, here's the deal. If I were filthy rich and I could dedicate an entire room to it, it would still not be able to do it because wherever it is that I'm doing that would become my default everywhere room, again, as it always has in the past. I've wrestled with this shit for my entire life, it seems like. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, I really put a lot of effort into trying to make my kitchen the everything room, where I had all of my stuff in one room. So I didn't have this problem of having to rearrange stuff for different tasks and different activities. The fact is, you can never get rid of that because unless the only way you can get rid of that is if you don't want the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I can't handle that at all. So I know I'm going to, if I set things up perfectly for recording music, as soon as I'm just sitting up perfectly for recording music, I'm going to want to make a video instead with these little dolls, which is a totally different setup. It's just how the fuck it goes for me. I don't know why it should be like that. Maybe it shouldn't, but it is. And I think largely you can explain it with cognitive functions. And, you know, that's why I get a little frustrated with TE because it is so easy to understand what the outcome ought to be. And it's so easy to say it's not that difficult and be correct about both those things. The problem is you're not contextualizing it within an actual life like everybody else. I don't want to be dedicated to this vision of anything, frankly, of making it. I don't want to be dedicated to a vision that makes me say, good, I can know I'm going to do the same thing over and over again now forever. That's not satisfying to me. That's not an accomplishment. That's not a move forward towards a better way of being in any sense of the word. You're going through a similar process, Art of Self? I don't doubt it. You got to do a little hula dancing is one of the things I've discovered. So, then see? This is like waltzing more though. There's not a lot of growth in what vision? Remaining the same. I mean, the thing is, that's the weird thing, right? In some regard, I'm remaining the same in that I'm not implementing these solutions that are proposed by other people. But note that if I were to implement any of the solutions proposed by other people, I would be explicitly not implementing all the solutions proposed by everybody else. So it is the case that if I'm trying to get a piece of work done in metal shop class and I get 15 minutes into a pair of tongs and go, that's too hard, and put that aside, and then get 15 minutes into a anvil, this is way too hard, put that aside, get 15 minutes into a hammer head and I'll put that aside, then I'll never get anything done in metal shop class. That's true. But that's what makes this a much more nuanced and complicated question than that. Because it's not the case that I'm getting nothing done. And it's also the case that I'm not close to maximizing the utility of this, remembering and keeping in mind that utility only is meaningful as it's framed through some individual's perspective on that. So obviously there are some universal things that are universally useful, like money. And it might be universally the case that that there's no inherent harm to having more money, right? Yourself. Here's one of my wisdoms when looking for meanings. There are things that could be done for eternity and you'd never accomplish them. And there are things that are transitory. There are things that could be done for eternity and you'd never accomplish them. So, I mean, I think the thing here is interesting about that particular wisdom is the opportunity to put what you want to put where things are. So, like, you can choose to spend your time behaving and doing meow. And in some areas, it's part of exercising your growth in a discipline. Playing the piano, music. Oh, you didn't frustrate me. You led me to explore. I thought it was great. I think it's great that I got to do that thing there, because I've never really gone through and explained specifically. Okay, so this is why. It's because there are so many factors involved. And of all the people who's likely to be TE minded or self, you certainly are not among them. But I get that it's demonstrative. So it's like making wise choices, right? That's what's implicit in Razor's advice. There is, you can spend to choose your time wisely. You can spend to choose to spend your time poorly. But what counts as a wise or poor use of time is entirely value dependent. And so we all incorporate a lot of external values that aren't native to us and try to hold ourselves to those standards. And some of the time, at least, we shouldn't do that, because those standards have been imposed upon us are actually sort of biases of the people who have instilled them in us, rather than representative of some universal that we ought to uphold. Even things that are broadly upheld as positives are not necessarily positives, like altruism. Giving money to homeless people. Is it a good idea? Is it a good thing to do? Are you helping the homeless person? Are you being kind? Are you being unkind? Are you being unkind but useful? Like, are you taking the best, most effective, efficient approach to a larger problem? Are you suffering if you give money to a homeless person from a failure to use NI where you should use SI? My SI experience is I know this person needs help. My NI knowledge is I know that if we incentivize homeless people to come here, we'll have more of this problem. So those values need to be understood, and I could lower it a little bit. It's not really an adjustable stand. I can put it on this shelf.
What about the wisdom of what's good for the goose is good for the gander?
Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, from my understanding of the expression, is simply you two, whoever you are subject to the universal law of communication, reciprocal burdens. So let's say I were a womanizer and I was going out with Rachel, and she said, "But why did you cheat on me?" I said, "Well, you see, I was horny." And she said, "I'll let you fuck me." Then Rachel cheated on me in return. I said, "Hey, what did you do? Why did you do that?" And she said, "Well, I was horny, so I said, go ahead, fuck me." You can't do that. Well, why not? Well, I mean, that's totally an unacceptable reason to do something like that. You betrayed me. The reason it's acceptable is because you made it acceptable with your reasoning. I'm simply applying your reasoning and serving you the dish that your reasoning cooked you. So everything is subject to reciprocal burdens. All arguments are subject to reciprocal burdens. The other great thing about what's good for the goose is good for the gander is it's basically saying you can't use irrelevant shit as an argument. You can't dismiss what I'm saying because I'm on my period. Even people on their period say things that are true and things that are false, make good arguments and bad arguments. And whether or not the person's on their period is not a reason to avoid responding on point to whatever it is the person said. If it really is motivated by her being on her period, then it'll be easy to defend against because it's probably not well reasoned. So you shouldn't have to bring in the period at all.
Yeah.
It's like It should play out the other way around. It's not you not listening to them because they're on their period. It's them having to be super careful when they're on their period because they know they're more likely to say something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And because you'll never blame it on their period, it's always on them.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Oh, who's so woke?
Me, I guess.
Yep.
I am woke. Well, I wasn't nearly this woke, but I spent nearly 3 years in my early 30s as an obese, uneducated black woman in the South. And it really opened my eyes. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things like racial inequity. It opened my eyes to body shaming. It opened my eyes to just how good a bag full of chitlins can be. But it was one of the most educational 3 years of my life. My name was Jam Quika. That's how you get this woke. You've got to put in the ontological growth that you need to have. If I want to be a complete individual human being, I need to ontologize everybody else's racial identity, gender identity, age identity, identity, concept of psychology, concept of philosophy, worldview, paradigm, and everything else, and make them all part of me, the one grand whole of non-exclusive truths. That's why I had to steal Brocco's gaze. I needed it back because I knew I was about to engage on my first foray into guru status. I'm working towards cult leader. So let's breast it down for you right now. Here we go. Brocco had this for a number of years. He took it from me. He stole it from me. I finally got it back. So it's a little rusty on me, but here it goes. What you're going to feel is a lightness in your soul, a release of all of your tensions, of all negativities. You're going to feel an empowerment, an incredible confidence, and a verve in you that you've never experienced before. Ready? Here we go. I've forgotten how powerful that was. That's a moving experience. Knowing that I've changed that many lives that quickly, I get why he stole it. I mean, it's not okay. It doesn't make it okay, but it is a really rewarding feeling. Because just by gazing at you, I can change your very life. You can go from what Dr. Lionel Sprinting Wolf Kazaquo calls a crawling cub into what Dr. Lionel Sprinting Wolf Kazaquo calls a sprinting wolf. Caucasian is the best drink. I didn't know it was a drink.
Neither did I.
Is it a cocktail? Can I get a Caucasian, please? I wonder what it would be. It'd be like 1 part bourbon, 1 part sake. That's a Caucasian.
Oh, that is.
Earlier today, the Gazer was running a live stream. Was he really? It must be an emergency live stream. He just realized he had his gaze stolen back from him. And all of a sudden, he's not gazing at anybody. He's just like, please, I can't do anything without my gaze. Everybody who's a Brocco fan, please find who stole it. Search all over YouTube. Check Eric because he might be slightly motivated to got it back. That's probably what went on in Brocco's live stream today. Because, and here's why I know this is true. Because I lack the capacity to have extreme opinions. I become very confused and agreeable, just like CJ O'Connell does. CJ and I are both subject to that problem. What do you think when you hear about INFP, ISFP relationship? I've never encountered one before. It doesn't seem like they'd really be drawn to each other. But where's the heater thing? It's hot in here.
The torch?
No, that.
Oh, the remote.
for the heater.
It's right there.
Right in front of my face. So there's a piece of axiomatic wisdom. If it was a snake, it would have bit you. If it was a snake, it would have bit you. I think the wisdom implicit in that axiom is watch out for things. They might be more dangerous than you think. Because if that were a snake, it would have bit me. And if I had nevertheless been looking for the remote control, then obviously I would have been paying inadequate attention to the arrival of snakes into the room. Yin and yang.
Would you like to split this with me?
Sure.
Cool.
Yin and yang are the two main characters in a story I'm writing about a fortune cooking company in Chinatown that begins selling fortune cakes instead, and discovers that it was a poor business choice because, of course, when people pull their fortune out of the inside of the cake, they can't read it. It's gotten so wet from the cake. So yin and yang work years and years and years trying to get a cake dry enough that you can retain the fortune's legibility without including any poisonous chemicals or anything. Did I mention it's an ice cream cake? That makes it even more challenging for them. Did I mention it's a deep fried ice cream cake? Making it even more challenging still. When I go to deep fry an ice cream cake, I know I've already accomplished a lot of things. I've already made an ice cream cake, and that's remarkable in and of itself. And I've already purchased a large deep fryer. So having accomplished the most two difficult parts of the job, deep frying an ice cream cake doesn't seem so difficult. You got to batter it with something. What batter do you put on an ice cream cake before you deep fry it? Just regular batter? Do we have ice cream cake batter still left over from the cake? Can we batter an ice cream cake with cake batter and then deep fry it? Is cake batter a deep friable kind of batter, or ought we instead use more of a fried chicken kind of a batter? And might it be, if we do have to do a fried chicken kind of batter, could we batter it with cake batter first, then apply the fried chicken kind of batter, and then the powdery stuff that you put on top of that? You know, that powder, I guess it's just flour, right? It's just flour. And then deep fry it so we can still have the batter, the cake batter layer that gets deep fried as well as the batter layer? Possibly, we could. Now, what happens if we mix a little pancake batter into the mix? After we've deep fried it, we then batter it with pancake batter and deep fry it again. Can we do this and still have the ice cream cold and frozen in the middle when we pull it out? That's the trick. That's the plan. And in order to do this, you need to have an insulating layer of moss between the ice cream and the cake. Now, you're going to very carefully remove that moss after you pull it out because that's inedible.
What's the moss doing there?
Well, it's protecting the ice cream from freezing, from unfreezing when it's in the deep fryer.
Oh.
It's coldness retaining moss. The problem is when you do pull the moss out afterwards, that's great, but you'll find that it's left like a zillion little green fibers. You're gonna have to go along and pick each of those out with a tweezers. Remember, they are poisonous, so you have to get them all, or you will instantly kill anyone who even touches your ice cream cake. No, by the way, don't touch it until you're done pulling them out. I forgot to mention that. If you already touched it, you're dead. So sorry about that. My bad. It's a challenging recipe. It's known as
really is.
It's known as the blowfish recipe of the American baking scene. Why? If you say that to just about anybody who knows anything about food, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Have you ever heard of the blowfish recipe of the American baking scene?
Ew.
Yeah, you're talking about the deep fried moss cake, deep fried ice cream moss cake. Of course, I've heard of it. It's like as expert level of baking challenge as you can get. Weed has no type because it's a thing. It's an intoxicant. That's what type of thing it is. Not very strong intoxicant. More of a a mood management supplement. Yeah.
Supplement.
Well, I tell you what it is. It's a fungible chit in the temporal bargaining economy. What I mean by that is everybody does temporal bargaining. They go, okay, if I do meh, meh, then I'll reward myself with meh. Everybody does that to some extent or another. Some people say,
Get out of my head, Eric.
some people might say, well, I won't drink any beers during the week, but I'll drink again next weekend. Or some people might say, well, I'll do this Coke right now, but I won't shoot that heroin because last time I did both, I ended up in a dark alley naked with a beer bottle shoved up my ass. I don't know how I got there. So that's another kind of temporal bargaining. It may not seem very effective, but to that person, the two alternatives, one is clearly better than the other, right? So everybody does some kind of temporal bargaining. Marijuana is very empowering in the temporal bargaining process because it gives you an instant chit to cash in as a reward that's cheap and easy to get, has low consequence in terms of impacting your ability to live normally, and makes you feel that you had a bit of a head change. So whatever you're fiending for, you're less fiending for it. I really like the word feenie, by the way, which is a naturally occurring, what you call an acorn, almost. Not really an acorn, but like that. I like that quote. Absence of evidence does not equal evidence of absence. That's true. Just because there is no evidence that you were here last night, Razor M, right? That's not proof that you weren't. You know, I didn't even look for you yet. I didn't even look for any evidence yet, but nothing popped out of me. I know that historically, from what I hear talking to the police, when you go to visit a place, you leave razors behind. It's sort of your calling card. You leave them in the shape of an M, and but nobody gets it because they don't know who you are. Only the police get it, and it was only after I explained to them who you are. So it's not really working as a calling card, but it might now. It might now. Let's see what other kind of wisdoms we have. I need to use the mouse.
What about the cow before the horse? Something like that?
Don't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
It's like saying, oh my God, I'm gonna train really hard. I'm gonna get the gold medal. I'm gonna win the gold medal. In fact, I'm gonna go right now and get my neck fitted for medal size. Well, you're putting the cart before the horse there, son. Better win that medal before you go to that medal fitting. This is very boring, but here's some useful old philosophy anyway. Well, listen, anything that's useful is not entirely boring. If you never push a rock, it will never move. It makes sense. It's the way things are. But if you push it, it will move. It depends on how big the rock is. I've been counting plenty of rocks that no matter how hard I push them, their giant boulderhood defies my will. Oh, giant boulder! Your heaviness and my muscles are no match. And that my muscles are no match for your heaviness. You guys call it a Milky Way. The other thing about rocks moving is there's this place in the desert here in California called Death Valley. And there's a particular valley within Death Valley where the rocks move by themselves. Which is to say, when you go there, you'll notice it's an empty valley and there's some rocks. And behind each of these rocks is this long path. It looks like the rock's been just sliding along here, leaving a path behind it. And it's behind each one of these big rocks. Who are like, when they first discovered this, they're like, what? There's no footprints there? There's no indication of any people? it's like these rocks have been moving along on their way someplace, and you can clearly see indication of them moving around by themselves. Well, they filmed it, slow, time-lapse photography filming it, and sure enough, the rocks are just sliding along this valley all by themselves, just very slowly. Takes them a long time.
Wow.
But if you time lapse for like 24 hours, you can clearly see them go like, and there's some complicated explanation for it. It has to do with the high heat variation in the area and the low sea level of the area make for sufficient kind of some sort of differentiation that creates a force that causes them to slide. I don't know what it is. There's some science explanation. It's not the best explanation probably is ghost rocks, but when I submitted it to the peer review journal, they said, "Sorry, we're not accepting your paper." I'm like, "But why? They're obviously ghost rocks."
Yeah.
Well, first of all, your paper just says, those rocks in Death Valley? They're totally ghost rocks. I wouldn't even call it a paper. It's barely an email.
It's not a bad one.
But I mean, Mr. Scientist, they totally are ghost rocks, though.
Yeah, like.
I'd like some Coke. That's good wisdom, Raymond Muniz. I'm not really looking for any Coke right now, but probably wouldn't turn it down. Probably I wouldn't. I might turn it down. I don't really like cocaine, but.
You said you would do with Frank James.
Yeah, sure, I do Coke with Frank James. I also do Coke with the ghost of Falco.
Oh my God, definitely.
Let's see here. I can give up for them and look for something better, but it'd be unhappy with that. With who? Who are you giving up on? Say something. I'm giving up on you. I like these short quotes, but sometimes in my attempt at making any, they end up not being under my control, so I will have a lot of problems with arguing for them. You don't have to argue for anything. We're just playing what kind of wisdoms do we have today? Is math created or discovered? Math is well,
It would be discovered. I've never heard that question before. That's a good one there.
well, it's a variant of my standard question: is truth created or discovered? But the thing is, math specifically is a more difficult question to answer because it would seem, as the person who just spoke said, to weigh much more heavily towards discovered than other kinds of knowledge. But the question made me pause and wonder where exactly that perception sources from. And I guess it's that, of course, math is the symbolic language of the physical world. So of course, when we say something's discovered or created and we say math is discovered, remember that what we're saying is we've discovered how to map it correctly. Because we could have mapped it correctly with totally different symbols, right? Instead of a plus symbol, we have a thing that looks like an eyeball. That's the symbol for addition. So it's like it's still fundamentally symbolic, but the relationships that it maps out are the kind of relationships that we can validate more easily than the kind of relationships that, say, symbolic logic maps out. Because symbolic logic includes the capacity it necessarily assumes free will. In other words, it has conditionality to it.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it means that when we use conditional logic, like if it freezes, the tomatoes will die. Okay. The fact is, whether or not it freezes tonight, is either 100% probability or 0% probability. It's either going to freeze or it won't. Okay. But because we don't know which it is, we're able to make decisions with conditionalities. The statement, if it freezes, then the tomatoes will die. Now, this might prompt you to say, well, I better take the tomatoes inside then. It might prompt you to say, it's not going to freeze. It might prompt you to say, those tomatoes are done producing anyway and on their way out. I don't care if they die. It might produce any number of possible responses, right? But the thing is, the kind of relationship that says, if it freezes, the tomatoes will die, is a different kind of relationship than saying, if we divide the remainder of this by the first number again, if we iterate this problem, we'll eventually end up in a ever repeating pattern, for example. That's a different kind of conditionality because it's not really conditional. It's saying, or it's conditionality in the absolute world. So it's true that if I only cut a board that's 6 inches long, that it won't fit in the spot where I need a board to be 8 inches long. That's true. But it's also the case that the kind of conditionalities that conditional logic deals with aren't those kind of conditionalities because they involve people's will and stuff. Like, if Mary and Joe go to the game, then I'm not going to want to go. And if I don't want to go, then I'm going to instead stay here and watch the pay-per-view fight, in which case I'll probably end up asking Chad if he wants to come over and watch it with me because he's a fan of that sport, and then I won't be alone. Those kind of things are not mathematically validatable in the same way, even though the conditional logic is just as absolute. The things that it's symbolizing, the kind of relationships it's symbolizing, aren't limited to physical relationships. And thus, it's more of a challenge to get consensus about the mapping strategies. It's pretty easy to get consensus about whether or not you've mapped something correctly with math. If you get high level enough group of mathematicians together and you say, hey, I've solved Math's theorem, then, and you put it in front of them and you really have solved it, then they'll be like, oh my God, he solved it. Yeah! It won't be like cognitive functions, right?
I'm right.
There's none of that. I'm not getting any of that from anybody, really.
You're not.
Because, of course, people don't have as much faith in the mapping techniques that include metaphysical components, mapping to mapping, or meta mapping, because they understand the inherently arbitrary nature of assigning a status to those symbols in that context, but they don't get how the meta mapping grammar makes that objection irrelevant if you do the job right, because almost nobody does the job right. So it's understandable that people don't have as much faith in philosophy as they do math. But that mostly because it's not so easy to objectively test. If I want to find a circular rug that fits in my space here, and I know how big the square is I want it to fit in, and I figure, okay, the circumference of the circle, therefore, or the not for circumference, the diameter of the circle needs to be meow. But let's say I go to the rug store and I don't know the diameter of the circle for some reason. I only know the radius of the circle. And I need to know the circumference. Look, I got to put a rug down and it has to be the following length around in circumference, because Better Homes and Gardens is coming to check on me. They're going to do a feature, and I have it on good information that their aesthetics adjudicator, it checks very carefully to make sure the ratio of the circumference of any circular rugs is 3:2 with the circumference of any other circular elements in the room, especially any large paintings. Now, we have a large circular painting that's exactly 3 times, it'd be 3:2 if the circumference of the rug is exactly this. I've got a big problem.
I'm loving this analogy.
I've got a big problem. I only know the radius. Oh, God. They're going to figure it out. Wait, says the rug store man. I've got a possible answer for you. What if we took that radius that you know, times it by itself, and then multiply that by 3.14? We're just going to approximate. Let's just see what happens. Oh my God, it turns out it will be the right circumference. And then they hug and they laugh. And the rug store worker told that story to people for years afterwards. He said, you might think it's boring working in a drugstore, but I save lives sometimes. He tell that story. That's why we need math, people. That's why you need to study math. Like how many times are you going to experience in your life the need to be able to figure out the circumference of a circle and not have the knowledge in you before you realize, hey, I better fix this deficit? Wasn't it just yesterday, Running Fox, that Tom came up to you and insisted you tell him the circumference of a circle in your house and you didn't know? Wasn't that embarrassing? Well, I'm here to give you a quick trick, a quick life hack. Next time, use pi r squared. Call this live stream life hacks for unusual situations. So if you're like me, you often find yourself going out on an outing with two other people, one of whom is twice as tall as you and one of whom is half as tall as you. How do you manage picture taking in that circumstance? Well, today we're here on life hacks for very unlikely situations. We'll be discussing this unlikely situation and what to do when you encounter it.
You have a very nice smile.
Read back your last comment. Everything went amazing. The only thing wrong is Rona. Is that a wisdom? I mean, I do like it. It is a rather important wisdom right now. In fact, Rachel and I were basically saying that earlier. I was saying it to Rachel, or she was saying it to me, one of the two, which is, what is this feeling of diffuse, overarching shittiness that I have within me? Oh, that's right. It's the mass hysteria that's driving the entire planet to self-wound.
Yeah.
What's the title? I'm Jordan Peterson. 60 million views. I'm host Eric. Yeah, shut the fuck up, dude. We know. Oh, right. I forgot. I'm not angry enough at the left. I am jealous. Yeah, I'm totally jealous. I'm not afraid to be jealous. I'm allowed to be jealous sometimes. I'm jealous of your last name. You get to roll your L's. I don't have any L's in my name. Does that make me a bad person just because I'm jealous of your last name? Alveros. So you've got spicy Latin flavor that I'll never have. I seem pretty angry at the left? No. I was angry. I mean, I would have been just as angry if you were a person for the right. What I'm angry at is the lack of thinking and the replacement of thinking with an agenda. Look, we just need to determine what the right agenda is. And then we'll implement the right policies naturally. That'll cascade down from the right agenda, is the presumption behind what he's saying. That presumption is extremely toxic and dangerous. And it's destroyed, it is in the process of destroying democracy. In fact, we need to reject the idea that there's an agenda that's correct and focus on actual policy prescriptions based on what's actually going on in the world. And stop worrying about whether you're on the right team. You know, his whole organization is all about being on the right team. So, yeah, I mean, I was angry, but it's not because he's left. It's because he's destroying America. Not with his policy prescriptions, but with his failure to make policy prescriptions. Not with his preferences for this kind of government or that kind of government, but for his failure to actually address those questions in any meaningful way. In other words, to insist that knowing what things ought to be is more important than actually engaging in real political thinking. You know, being able to paint the prettiest picture of an ideal reality and insist that every policy that would suggest by its intention that it's on the same team as yours that actually accomplish that policy without factoring in actual TE considerations like whether it's going to work is dangerously childish. It is. Dangerously childish. He's dangerously childish is the best way to describe that guy.
the alternative be?
Okay, well, Darren, the point is there. Even if that's the case, that the virus overburdened hospitals. Explain to me how the harms of overburdening hospitals outweigh the harms of the status quo persisting indefinitely. Okay, so the death toll could go from 6 digits to 7 or 8. In California, which is one of the hot spots where you have huge peaks and stuff, so far we've had 19,000 deaths attributed to COVID. Now, note, the reality is, and we have to be honest about this, that those 19,000 deaths, probably at least half of them, they died from a variety of comorbid symptoms. They were very old and they were probably going to die in the near immediate future anyway. COVID may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, okay? Note that those same people would have died from the common cold probably. Those same people would have died from the flu, okay? So it's not that their death is uniquely caused by the unique qualities of COVID. It's very easily attributable to the fact that when people get sick and they're very old and sick already, they tend to die. But let's say, go ahead, let's say those 20,000 deaths in COVID represent 20,000 perfectly healthy people who catch COVID and die. Let's just pretend that's the case. Now, the official COVID infection numbers in California are about 2 million so far. But the CDC has indicated that there's 10 to 26 times more actual infections than the official number, just because of the nature of the testing protocols. So we're looking at 20 million to 40 million or so people who've had this thing, maybe 50 million, and 20,000 or so who've died while having it. And I'm affording the incredibly generous interpretation that they died exclusively because of it. Now let's look at the average year in California. The average year in California, nearly 400,000 people died. So let's say you're right about COVID. And if we don't shut down and the hospitals are overburdened and that number skyrockets to 100,000 deaths. So why are we putting all of our energy into those deaths and no energy at all into the other and currently 398,000 deaths? I'm sorry, 380,000 deaths. We're putting all of this energy in something that's killed 20,000 people, and nobody's asking, well, what about the causes of the other 380,000 people who die in California every year? If this 20,000 justifies this very strong response, now I've noted, oh my goodness, gosh, California's deaths are actually way down in 2020. Why is that? Well, because car accidents are way down and other kind of accidents are way down. Accidental deaths are way down. So it turns out that the lockdown worked, saved lots of lives, despite the fact that people still died of COVID. So you're right, obviously then, right, that we need to continue the lockdown forever, because normally in a normal California year, 400,000 people die. In this year, despite COVID, let's say only 280,000 die. We cannot justify any of this lockdown knowing it's going to cost us 100,000 deaths in California alone. Not from COVID, from car crashes and other accidents. So, it's fine. It's like Razor M says, or whoever said that, I don't remember who said that, right? So this is the problem that people who are wrong have with reciprocal burdens. So if it in fact is the case, Darren Koflowski, in California, I said, Darren, 20,000 deaths in California, okay? Well, why not? Why not?
Are you suggesting a lockdown without a contagion?
No, well, Darren, let me address this point here first. Darren Kowalski says car crashes are not analogous. Well, why not? What about accidental deaths? They're certainly analogous, right? I didn't mean to go out and catch COVID and die of it. Isn't that accidental? And I didn't mean to die when I went hiking. But preventing me from going hiking, preventing me from dying, preventing me from going out, preventing me from catching COVID, preventing me from dying, how are they different? But you see what I'm saying, Darren? How is it not analogous? Where does the analogy break down? You say it's not analogous, quote unquote. So explain to me where the analogy breaks down. I just explained to you how it is actually analogous and the analogy does not break down. I gave you an example of an analogy that would break down, but this is not one of them. So you explain how the analogy breaks down. And the answer is the only difference is this is new and has been made into a big scary monster by the media. That's the only difference. And you bought it hook, line, and sinker, Darren. And now you're committed to a bad line of argumentation, and you're probably feeling a little threatened because you're accustomed to agenda-based politics rather than actual thinking. But you're welcome to join us in actual thinking town, where we do a lot better job than they ever will do in either agenda town. Razor M, stop reminding me your mom gave me chlamydia last night. And you tell her, thank you very much, lady, but not again, okay? This is the third time she's given me chlamydia. She keeps claiming she's gotten it treated. She keeps claiming I get it treated. I go back and she says, oh, no, I'm clean, I'm clean. She gives me chlamydia again. And it's like, well, you deserve it, Eric. I was like, for what? She said, for giving me gonorrhea 6 times. I told you that was an accident. I knew I had gonorrhea, yes, but I didn't think I was contagious at that moment.
Some pearls of wisdom too.
Yeah. Okay. It's over 2 hours. I think I'm about done with this. So, I mean, the thing is, Darren, you do need to justify your shutdown. And the justification made by the COVID people is that this is an emergency, that we need to shut down because if we don't shut down, there's going to be this huge rash of deaths. But what's implicit in there is, number one, if we do shut down, we're going to prevent it. Now, I pointed out correctly way at the beginning that if we do shut down, we won't prevent it, that the best thing that we will do is delay it for a little while, maybe, if what they're saying is right. Now, it turns out that, in fact, not only are we not at risk of overflowing the hospitals, but when we were told to flatten the curve during that period of time, hospitals were emptier than they had ever been in this country. So, I mean, the thing is, no matter how much we love our team, there comes a day when we grow up and we say, I'm going to put aside the agenda first. I'm going to withhold my decision until I actually evaluate the arguments. And I'm going to make the right decision. And you still have the chance to, we'll continue to have the chance indefinitely to join us over here where we don't make dumb advocacies. And you can be free from ever making dumb advocacies again. Because I don't care what side it's on. I don't give a fuck. Left, right, I want to not be subject to people correcting me. I want to be subject to not be subject to being the person who's wrong. So when you said in this thing here, it's not analogous, that was a reflex. Well, my side is being threatened. I'm going to say it's not analogous. But you're smart and you can think. And when I said, well, show me why it's not analogous, and I pointed out to you why it was, you're stuck with the reality, yeah, okay, it is analogous. Now, what do you do with that? You can cling to that wrongness that you're currently clinging to, that nevertheless I uphold this team position and continue to let it drag you to the bottom of the ocean. It's a big rock. Or you can just let it go. Those are your choices. And when you do let it go, all of a sudden the world opens up and you realize, oh my God, I can't believe everybody is so hell-bent on destroying America with their partisanship. Because, you know, as soon as you open up your eyes, you'll find plenty of examples of your own team as well as the other team saying stupid ass shit. All the teams do. It's implicit in being a team. It means you're not prioritizing the right thing automatically. You should be prioritizing the country. There's only one team. You should be prioritizing civil society. There's only one team. You should be prioritizing that I enjoy the same capacity of agency that you enjoy. So thanks for being here. Hey, if you want to chat with me about your thing, meet me at whereby.com/Eric Strauss. Okay. And it might be a little bit till I'm quite ready to talk to you, but I'll go there right now anyway. And then we'll figure out logistics at that point. Okay.